Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney has invited 100 of the world's largest investors to a summit in Toronto this September. The event is meant to make the pitch to organizations that control trillions of dollars of capital that Canada is a great place to invest. And it's part of a broader strategy by Ottawa to lure global investment back into the country. The CBC's senior business reporter, Peter Armstrong, joins us now with more on all of this. Okay, so Peter, good to have you here on this. What do we know about this summit? Who is going to be there?
Well, we don't know yet. We know that invitations have just gone out. Most of them went out this week, though some went out as early as February. So it's sort of been evolving. And, you know, I started poking around on this story. You remember when Mark Carney went to Davos and gave that famous speech everybody talked about? There was a line in the news release from the PMO during that, after that speech, and everybody was focused on the speech. So this line kind of went unnoticed, that he had sat down after the speech in a room full of investors equaling $10 trillion worth of investable capital that's looking for a place to land in this changing world and a reliable place, and him pitching it as Canada as a reliable place for that capital to land. So we started asking around, well, who was there? What was going on? And then we get wind that there's this broader conference set to take place in September where these invites have gone out under the name of Mark Carney to try to get a meeting of the 100 biggest investors in the world. So like private firms like BlackRock, but the big institutional sovereign wealth funds like GIC out of Singapore, to try to get them here. And one of the people involved in organizing this has called it like a Canada Inc., that they're trying to go in the way you do it in a publicly traded company on Investor Day, where you bring everybody in, you sort of say, look, here's what we're doing, here's what we're planning, here's what we think is going to work, here's where we're moving away from. And that's the sense of what this meeting is supposed to be. It's worth noting, I wrote that piece that went out this morning. I woke up to an email from our colleague Aaron Wary, who was sharing with me a piece about a summit that had happened between then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and BlackRock back in 2017 that was supposed to unleash trillions of dollars in capital then. Didn't happen. So the question, as is always, is this time any different? I guess that's what we're going to see in September.
Okay. In the meantime, though, how does this meeting, this summit, how does this fit in with Ottawa's broader strategy here of trying to strengthen some of Canada's trade ties around the world?
So there's a couple of things happening at the same time. On the one hand, Mark Carney and the Liberal government have tried to fast track the approvals process. They got the Major Projects Office. They're trying to identify these projects that need investment and that will grow the Canadian economy. Some of that investment is going to come from private companies. Some of that is going to come from Canadian pension plans. Some of that's going to come from the government. They're trying to figure out which of those projects would be sort of, attractable to these big giant corporations that have these trillions of dollars in capital. And then, as I was saying with the Davos thing, is the more I looked into that, the more I learned that every time Mark Carney goes to one of these countries and meets with the world leaders, he has a side meeting where he's meeting with business leaders, with investment capital, with these groups and pitching them. So there is this broader sort of attempt to corral global capital, bring it to Canada and get it focused on some of these projects, increasing capacity at the Port of Montreal and building pipelines and all of those things. They need money. And we have seen a significant drop off in Canadian investment in Canada, not just from that foreign capital that was coming in, but Canadian pension plans were investing elsewhere. So how do we get them back and investing in Canada is the sort of overarching question. And then you can kind of get into the specifics as you look through those individual meetings and as we work towards this broader summit in September.
Okay, well, we shall see. Peter, thank you for this. Always great to have you here. The CBC's senior business reporter, Peter Armstrong.